podcast. We have a Seminole and a Gator together, trying to put aside their differences and bring you the world of college football from the Sunshine State. Thank you for joining us. My name is Brandon. I'm joined by Chris. This week, Chris and I have a very special episode. We're going to give you our instant reaction to the first release of the College Football Playoff Committee's rankings and a special Halloween treat. So stay tuned. So how you feeling about today's show, my friend?
I'm feeling spooky.
Ooh, I love it. Ooh, I got chills. Goosebumps.
I know, right?
It's fantastic. Well, yeah, we're going to break out something we haven't done in a while, and that was our top 5 list. So we'll get to that in a second. We want to give our fans an instant reaction because the College Football Committee released their top 25 today. And we mean instant reaction in every sense of the word because we're doing this on Tuesday night, and the rankings just came out around 7:30. So, initial thoughts here, Chris. Do you think there were some teams that shocked you in where they ranked, and did the committee mostly get it right?
I think they got it for the most part right. You could make a case for Michigan being in the top 4. I guess the top 4 is what you're really looking at.
Right.
But obviously, Alabama and Clemson 1 and 2. Kind of shocked Louisiana State is there. LSU is up there. Notre Dame, I'm not too surprised. And I figured Georgia would be up there in that LSU spot. One shocker, though, Ohio State at 10 and Kentucky is at 9.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a shock there. No one really saw that. And I'm happy about this, but the fact that Florida's at 11 is shit. The fact that we're even messing around with a poll, is pretty cool.
Yep.
And UCF, I really thought UCF, even though they're undefeated, would be higher. I thought they would be in the top 10. A lot of SEC teams in there, which is nice to see, and a couple of ACC teams rounding out the bottom.
Yep. So real quickly, we'll backtrack and just give you the list here. Alabama's number 1. Clemson's number 2.
Sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. Bama 1, Clemson 2. LSU is 3, or as Chris referred to them, Louisiana State.
Yes.
I don't even know anyone that calls them that. Number 4, Notre Dame. 5 is Michigan. 6, Georgia. 7, Oklahoma. 8, Washington State. 9, Kentucky. 10, Ohio State. 11, Florida. And then 12 is UCF. And you can read the rest for yourself. But those are the ones that matter the most, and we'll kind of discuss. Yeah. But yes, I look at the Gators as the highest ranked 2-loss team, which you kind of want to look at. If one day when we become writers and we get to vote on this, I think some of the criteria we both share is who are your quality wins.
Right.
I don't pay attention to quality losses. That's always bothered me. If you're looking at quality losses, then Charlie Weiss was the best coach in Notre Dame in 2000s, okay?
Sure.
Because his best win was a 4-point loss to USC.
Yeah.
Quality losses don't matter to me. Florida has a quality win against LSU.
Yeah.
That's what sticks out to you. LSU has a quality win against Georgia, all right? Georgia's quality win against Florida, and so forth. So who have you beaten? That's what I really want to know. And if you're going off of that criteria, that's pretty good. And that's why Notre Dame, undefeated, is not ahead of LSU. Because Notre Dame doesn't have any really good wins and won't have any the rest of the season.
Right.
They struggled against Pittsburgh and beat Wake Forest, but that doesn't impress me.
Yeah. If you're going by that criteria, tell me who Alabama's beaten.
Oh, very good point. And you're right. You're absolutely right. Especially if you look at yards per play against the teams they've beaten, probably Missouri. It's probably in the 90s somewhere.
Yeah, but if you watched Alabama football, they're really good.
Yes.
But who they beat? I don't know.
No one good yet. And
A&M, I guess A&M is your best. I forgot A&M's your. That's it.
That's a pretty decent win right there. I think they're they're 20. So
20.
That feels about right. But again, with Texas A&M, who have you beaten that's good? You have a close loss to Clemson. You have a close-ish loss to Bama.
They beat Kentucky.
Oh, that's right. Sorry, that's what I meant to say. So that's what you hang your hat on, I suppose.
Right.
But yeah, that's the biggest criteria to me. Who have you beaten that's good? The other criteria is how did you look against the teams you beat?
Right.
Obviously, with Bama, there you go. Clemson, they murdered Florida State, Wake Forest, and the like. Close win against Texas A&M, but that win's definitely going to hold up. And Clemson has enough of strength of schedule that they're just not going to move. Even with the loss, I think they're still in the top 4.
Yeah, and they squeaked out a win against Syracuse, but Syracuse is ranked 19. I mean, so
yeah. Look at the ACC representing.
Right.
Yeah, you look at the Miami Hurricanes that started in the top 10, not even ranked at all.
Right.
Yep.
How many does the ACC have?
Almost as many as the SEC. So we have Virginia at 25. That's 1. BC 22. NC State 21. Syracuse 19. And Clemson, I guess, rounds it out. So that's 5.
Okay.
5 ranked teams.
Pretty good.
And all of that happened just recently. I want to say that Virginia, BC, and Syracuse just under the rankings this week. NC State's fallen, but they've been ranked, and of course Clemson. So it's pretty good.
Yeah. Way to go, ACC.
Yeah, it's a little better than we realized, and you may see some interesting teams starting to beat up on each other. That's usually what happens this time of year,
right?
Especially in the Coastal.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the elephant in the room. You mentioned UCF, undefeated, 7-0, ranked 12.
I thought you were going to go with Alabama or something. I thought your dad joking me there, but you're not. Okay.
I think
let's go with the night in the room.
No, okay, even better.
There we go.
That was not even an intentional, by the way. That was
okay. I thought you were trying to talk about Alabama. Okay. I'm thinking too much like a dad. I need to back off a bit there.
That's all right. We're both guilty of that sometimes. You look at UCF. Last time that the polls were released, 2017, UCF started at 16. So you look at UCF schedule, which is slightly better, probably 8 to 10 spots, depending on FPI or Feel Steel, those kinds of people. So I think that the committee has done something a little unique here, in that even though they're going to say that they're not considering last season, they probably are a little bit.
You have to be. And
we also kind of mentioned how it's easy to move from the teens up to around the 10 area, and then past that, you get in a wall. You're going to have to get that signature win to propel yourself up. So what I think is funny is that Florida and UCF are right next to each other, touching. That just that kind of cracks me up. I'm sure UCF fans don't find it funny, but
right. I was about to say, if you're a UCF fan, you see a 2-loss Florida ahead of you. Ugh. It's got to sting a bit.
They're probably a little bit right there. If two teams were ever next to each other in the polls, by the way, and they've played each other, I'm of the opinion one should be on the top versus,
Yeah.
But that means to me they put them 4 spots higher than last season.
Mm-hmm.
So are they thinking about the Auburn win? It's hard to forget it. So let's just assume they are. And let's also remember, and I retweeted this on our account too, 2 teams have started in 15 and 16 in the first playoff and made it in the Final Four. Oklahoma and Ohio State.
Yeah, I knew Ohio State did. I didn't know Oklahoma.
So now consider their conference, though. Consider their strength of schedule when they did it. And then Ohio State ended up winning it all that year. So there's room to go up for sure. And there's still 5 weeks left, including the championship weekends.
All right.
I really think UCF has a small shot, and it's slightly better than I thought. Is it still very small? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're trying to get them into the top 4, that's a tall order. So what do you think about UCF, their chances, and then them being right next to the Gators?
I could see them being upset, and I wouldn't be upset if UCF was ahead of us, honestly.
Okay.
I'm looking ahead of them. I don't we're not going to be an issue jumping if they get a quality win, because we don't have much of a quality win coming up for us. see, Ohio State and Michigan play each other. Kentucky, Georgia play each other. LSU, Alabama plays each other. A lot of teams play each other. It's ahead of them. Washington State, I see them jumping up significantly, but I don't know if they're going to get in. Let's see, they got to get into the last spot. I think 1 and 2 are locked.
Yes.
But I don't know if Notre Dame's going to lose. I see. Yeah, I don't know if. Let's see, I would have them go as high as 6.
That's kind of what I was thinking. They go undefeated. Some things happen. 6 is kind of the ceiling.
Right.
What we alluded to this on the last episode is that UCF needs a little chaos. Let me clarify where I think this would have to matter. You need. So I already said, UCF fans, you need to root for Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
They need to win the ACC to help your strength of schedule. That's all it's going to help. It's not going to help move Clemson down. Let's assume that that's their only loss. They're still going to finish in the top 4. That may actually hurt UCF in some scenarios, because if you're at 5, Clemson would take that 4 spot from you. If they were to drop down. So I guess ideally then you would want Bama to go undefeated, Clemson to go undefeated, and if you assume Georgia beats Kentucky this weekend, you would need Georgia to go in the SEC title game and lose pretty badly.
Yeah.
You don't want them to lose a close game, and you certainly don't want them to win.
Right.
Because then Georgia and Bama both go, you're taking a spot.
Yeah.
So those are some things I'm just spitballing here, but that's kind of what I would imagine. I think it would probably also help if, I don't know, every single Power 5 conference has a 2-loss champion except for Bama. If the Big Ten, you have a 2-loss champion there, you have the 2-loss champion out of Big 12, that's actually pretty likely. Because you have West Virginia, Oklahoma, and Texas all sitting with 1 loss right now. And West Virginia still plays both of those teams.
Mm-hmm.
The Pac-12, they're done. They ruined any shot they had. I don't have any faith in Washington State. That's the one team I'm confident in. They're gonna fall pretty hard. Yeah, they always do. I'm kind of surprised they just held on this long. They nearly lost to Stanford and probably should have, but did pull it out. So that's to me. Mike Leach is such a character, isn't he?
He's a fun one.
What a guy.
The old pirate.
Yeah.
And no joke, this past week, I was watching several interviews of him just in his zany antics. Just for fun. You ever feeling down about yourself? You just watch some Mike Leach interviews. Tell you what, he's a funny man.
Yes, he is. Gundy's another good one, too. Oklahoma State. That and treadmill fails. Those always get me going. Those 3 things.
I would like to see Mike Leach on a treadmill.
Oh, hey, all right.
Just make this happen. Yes. Internet, make this happen.
Yes. So, I feel like the top 12 is pretty close. If you don't mind, Chris, I have my own top 10, and I mentioned this to you already. I'm kind of basing, this is my own personal criteria, I'm basing on what I think is going to happen by the end of the season, almost like a prediction, if you will, of how the team will finish. Yeah. But there's some room for parity here. I have Alabama number 1, Clemson number 2, Georgia number 3. Even at this point, I like Georgia. I like their recruiting, I like their strength, I like their running game, I like their defense. So I wouldn't be shying away from the fact that I would put them at 3 right now. 4, Notre Dame. 5, LSU. 6, Michigan Wolverines. 7, Ohio State. 8, UCF. 9, OU. 10, Washington State. That's assuming Washington State wins the rest of the games, and I don't think they will. Mm-hmm. So, even in my pretty progressive poll there, I have UCF at 8. And I have Michigan and Ohio State, touching each other, which, the states do and they don't like to do. But
I'd say Bama, Clemson, Notre Dame, Michigan. And that's my...
You would put Notre Dame and Michigan... Oh, wow. they've already played this year. There's a chance they could play
Right.
in the national championship. That would be very interesting.
Yeah, I think that's how it's going to shape out.
Yeah, my Michigan was my weariest pick because I put them at 6, but I also could see them drop into the teens with another 2 losses this year. I
Right.
really could.
If not them, maybe Oklahoma slips back in there. I don't think Georgia. The way that they get into the playoffs is they win and they beat Alabama, which would put Georgia higher than Alabama.
Right.
So I don't think that happens. So
How about this? Georgia beats Bama in the SEC title game. Georgia goes in as number 1. Bama sneaks in as number 4, and they have to play each other again
that
the following week. That'd be great.
That would be great.
I would love that.
It'd be real great, especially coming off of the national championship game last year.
That would just be hilarious.
Yeah.
And then Clemson's just sitting there waiting for Bama again. What would this be? The 4th time they'd played? Something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
Gee whiz. So anyway, yeah, just first impressions there from the guys.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I think UCF probably deserves a couple spots more than they have now. Those couple spots could make a huge difference by the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
But I see the ceiling around 6 myself. There are ways it can happen, but a lot of things would have to happen. But I'm also saying this to a Gator fan who needed everything to happen in 1996 to win the national championship game, and they did it. So it's not beyond the realm of reason that they sneak into the playoff.
Right.
You're not just going to sneak past whoever's numbers 1, 2, and 3 are. You're not going to sneak past the semifinals and into the national championship game and slip up and win. You're going to have to really earn at that point if you get in the top 4.
Yeah. Right.
And I think they realize that. They just want a shot.
Yeah. Right. I don't think it happens though. They just with USF losing, they need all the strength of schedule they can get, and just nah.
It really hurt when Cincinnati lost because they were undefeated and ranked. They're not. South Florida, they're not. Yeah, they slipped out of the rankings too. Houston, that's your one hope, and they're not ranked either. I was just double checking. So that's going to be. Those 2 wins are what you really needed, and they probably needed 1 or 2 quality wins to jump up, and that really might have been enough.
Right.
But their quality wins are just going to come too late in the year.
Yep.
So, all right. So that'll be fun, and we'll keep a distant eye on that from the Florida team's perspective. None of the other teams I don't feel like will scratch the surface. Maybe if Miami rights the ship and wins out, that they come somewhere near the bottom, but it's pretty clear that they're done.
Yeah.
So it's Florida and UCF the rest of the year. Just see where they where they move around.
Crazy.
Indeed. All right. Well, our fans are really excited. It's Halloween Day, so we conjured up a really, really fun topic. So reverting back to all of the fun we had in the preseason around the time the show launched, the fans know that we like to do some of our top 5 lists. So, Chris, would you like to introduce the top 5 that we're going to be doing today?
Our fave 5 is because it's themed around Halloween, and these are our fave 5 or least fave 5, if you will, plays that haunt us.
Plays that haunt us. I love it.
Yeah, and tell you what, this was not fun. Not fun reliving. Not fun researching. This was just it was very haunting this whole time. But hopefully it can end up being therapeutic.
Yes.
And hopefully we can maybe you guys can reach out to us and say like, yes, I feel the exact same way about that play. It's just as awful as you think it is. So these are plays that not so much games that haunt us, and we'll might shelf that for another time, but specific plays in a game that you're just you shiver, you run and hide, your heart drops when you think about it, when you see replays of it. Maybe that it was a game losing play or a play that sparked something, but or just a flat out embarrassing play. So plays that haunt us. So how are you feeling about it?
I couldn't agree more. The chills go down the spine, the hair stands on end. And you look at this, and you put your face in your palms, you shake your head, and not only are you embarrassed, but you just want to run away and you don't want to talk about it. But that's the strength we have mustered. We are going to confront these head on.
Yes.
Because we want the treat and not the trick today.
Okay, so I like that.
We're doing it for the fans, for you.
Okay,
yes.
You're welcome, fans.
Yeah, here we are. All right, so the format is you're probably familiar with. If you're not, I'm going to defer to Chris. He'll give his number 5. I'll go back to my number 5. We'll alternate through number 1. And then at the end, we'll give you some honorable mentions on some plays that didn't quite make the list. So without further ado, Chris, let's get started. For the Florida Gators, your fave 5 plays that haunt you.
All right, and this one, the first one, number 5, is kind of really angers me just as much as it haunts me. A lot of these anger me as well. This is back in 2010, home game versus LSU, and I'll set up the scenario real quick, and I'll talk about the play. It's a back and forth game. Meyer and Les Miles are the other coaches, and we're up by 3, and LSU is kind of driving, and with like 35 seconds left, it's 4th down, and they're setting up for a long field goal to tie the game. I want to say it was like 40s, something like that.
Okay.
And Les Miles has a tendency to run trick plays, especially fake field goals. And sure enough, Les Miles calls a fake. The holder gets the ball. The kicker runs behind the holder. He flips it over his head. The kicker grabs it, runs for a 1st down. And later on, with just mere seconds left, LSU goes down and scores a touchdown and ends up winning the game. And it's just one of those things where there were, 13 people in the swamp that did not know it was going to be a fake. Those 13 people, 11 on the field, our special teams coach and Urban Meyer. Because everyone else knew. Because I remember sitting next to my buddy in the game. I'm like, oh, you got to watch out for the fake here. You got to watch out for the fake. And he totally agreed. He's like, yeah, Les Miles always calls a fake. What do you know? There's a fake. I was so angry. I was like, what is going on? If a random guy in the stands, knows the fake is coming, how come the head coach, special teams coach, and 11 guys in the field do not know the fake is coming? And they executed it perfectly, and we end up losing the game. And as you can tell, my blood is boiling right now.
You're a little heated, yeah.
I'm just like, come on, how do you not know that fake is coming? And the edge guy came in and let the kicker run outside, and it still haunts me today.
Wow. Even I haven't watched those teams exclusively. That's one of the staples of Les Miles. I can understand how you feel that way.
Right. Another one of his trickery did not make a cut. I'll talk about honorable mentions, but that one really just come on, coach, come on, special teams, just come on. But yeah, that's number 5 for me.
Okay. Wow. Jeez.
Before I break something.
It's only going to get better. I love it.
It's only 5. Others in the list are more depressing. But this one just angers me.
Anger. Okay. Wow. Excellent. Well, we'll move on to my number 5 plays at Hans. I'll let you cool down for a second. So, this one, all of these really will require kind of a setup. So, my number 5 play that haunts me it was a failed screen pass against NC State in 2012. All right. So here's the scenario. Florida State comes in undefeated, number 3 in the nation, going to Raleigh. A place Florida State has struggled many times, has lost many times, even as a top 5 team. And the weird thing about this game is it did not feel like an upset. Florida State handles business. They go in the locker room at halftime up 16-0. Right? Set over 3 field goals. That's really the only thing you can complain about. You're shutting them out. They can't get anything done. You're clearly winning the game. Fourth quarter rolls around. They're still around. They score a field goal at 16-3. They score his touchdown at 16-10. Now it's early in the fourth quarter, and you're thinking, Florida State hasn't moved the ball. They haven't scored. The game's slipping away. So they score a touchdown. There's 13 minutes left in the game. Florida State hasn't moved the ball at all. We have E.J. Manuel as our quarterback, and he's had a rough day passing. But Jimbo calls the perfect play. We're coming at our own 20. It's first down. He calls a delayed screen pass at the left side of the field. And I'm not exaggerating, Chris. The entire offensive line was in front of our running back, Chris Thompson, to block for him all the way down the field. I had to watch this replay to show myself how wide open this was. And what does E.J. Manuel do? He overthrows the running back on a short pass. It falls incomplete. That would have gone for a touchdown. 80-yard touchdown. Florida's up 23-10. That's fine. The only other loss we had that entire year was against Florida. We went on to win the ACC. We could have finished in a national championship hunt and been in there in November. And that didn't change the entire complexion of the whole year. That one failed, and you just overthrow. That's one of the easiest. Just put a little touch on it. Just float it. Just float it. That's all you got to do. And he's gone. And he overthrows him. Rest is history. We end up struggling. They end up scoring a touchdown late in the game. We lose by 1.
Man, that's some of the toughest plays when they're wide open. To receive a catch and to throw is when they're wide open. Yep. Sometimes guys tend to have either alligator arms or kind of short it or overdo it because they're just like, he can't be this open. It's not that easy, is it?
That one haunts. But it's always right at the next season. But at the time, you're just thinking, okay, Jimbo's in his, we hadn't won the ACC at that point. We thought we could have blown it right there. We struggled later that season to beat Virginia Tech. Having won that game would have changed the whole year. Right. Oh, that's my number 5.
Okay. My number 4 is in 1999. It's a home game against Alabama. They're ranked 21, I believe, and we're ranked number 3. And it's a back-and-forth game, and they're led by running back Sean Alexander, who had a decent career in the NFL. Yeah. I remember late in the game they threw a wheel route to him and to tie the game up. We go into overtime, and we get the ball first, and we go down. And we throw the touchdown pass to Riche Caldwell, and place is going crazy. Line up for the extra point, and we shank it. But that's not the play. That's not the play, my friend. Chandler shanks it, so we're up by 6, right? And then Alabama, their first play, second play, Sean Alexander, 25-yard run right up the middle, breaking tackles left and right. Alabama ties it up, and they're going to win. Except they shank their extra point. But the place is going crazy. But there's a flag on the field. And that flag is because we lined up offsides.
Oh, wow.
And then what do? They kick the extra point, game over. And that play is just, it could have been many plays in that game, but that just, come on. They gave us, we messed up, break our hearts, and then they do the exact same thing, but you lined up offsides. And it's not like he lined up offsides and then blocked it, it made a difference. No, you just met offsides, and man, it just seriously back and forth game, overtime. You're ranked number 3. You mess up, they hand you a gift, and you just said, "No, we don't want the gift. You keep this. You keep it." Sean Alexander haunts me to the day. But that also, I forgot who was the one who lined up offsides, but just a crusher right there.
Wow, and I'll be honest, I don't recall that game, but clearly you do very vividly.
I try not to recall it. But...
Wow.
Yeah.
What a squeaker, and that sounded like a fun game to watch, and you just hate to come out on the wrong end of that.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, man. I think this might be the first time we felt sorry for each other. It might be the only time.
Right.
This next one, my number 4, Plays That Haunt Us, is unique in that it is one of the few plays that you and I have seen live together.
Oh, I know where you're going.
You
then.
do. I thought you might
Yeah.
as soon as I said that. And that is the Jarman Fortson dropped pass with no time left against Miami in 2009.
Yes.
Christian Ponder throws a pass, and let me set this up. This ended up being Bobby Bowden's last season at FSU. We didn't know it at the time, but this game, I'm almost certain of it, impacts that decision.
Okay.
So early on, we already had Jimbo Fisher as the offensive coordinator. Things had looked rough for the Noles. 06-07 were some of the worst years ever. 08, you recover a little bit. 2009, you figure Forsyth's on the upswing. Well, you host Miami on Labor Day night. Those games never go well. And the defense has just decided not to show up for this one. They took a nap. And both teams were scoring at will. Well, it comes down to the very last drive. Forsyth's down by 4, trailing 38-34. And Forsyth has it inside the 5-yard line. We have a couple of plays. Miami commits a penalty. So we end up getting 1st and goal. We got stopped 4 tries, and we allowed to our last play. There's 5 seconds left in the game. We just have to gain a couple of yards, and Miami has stiffened their necks, and they won't let us get in the end zone. So on the last play of the game, Christian Ponder takes a snap, bootlegs to the right, and he has probably 2 wide receivers that are open. Mm-hmm. He throws it to Jarman Fortson, and it is so close of how much of the pass. I mean, the review it felt like an eternity. It probably took, in reality, 5 to 10 minutes. But he just lets it slip through his fingers, and it barely touches the turf. He tries to quickly recover, but they ruled it incomplete, and after the review, it was upheld. So what would have been a game-winning touchdown pass ends up being incomplete. Florida State loses. They end up going to have a 6-6 year. Bobby Bowden ends up having to be forced into retirement, and the Noles lose another heartbreaker to Miami.
Yeah. I remember watching that. It looked like I thought at first he caught it.
Yeah. It's really close.
Yeah. But yeah, it was that was a wild game. It really was. Wild atmosphere, and I thought they were within like the 5. We said they're gonna score, and I thought they did score, and when they didn't, I was like, oh wow.
Yeah.
He didn't catch that ball?
Just crazy. And that's probably the one that it's not even an anger, it's just a frustration. Like, oh, man, you had it. Like there's certain times in a game where you're like, okay, that could swing momentum. But I was like, no, this one's clear. You lost the game on that one play. And It's very rare you can point to one instance and see that happen, and it happened there very clearly.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So this is getting really tough here. So number 3. Plays that
Number
haunt
3.
you, Chris. Number 3.
All right. This might be higher on a lot of Gator fans' list, maybe even 1. But number 3 for me, the 1996 National Championship game, the blowout loss to the Nebraska Cornhuskers led by Tommy Frazier. And there's a play where he just runs up to the right and several Gators tackle him, or they don't tackle him. They just hug him. I don't know if they thought that a whistle had been blown or what, but they kind of all let up. And Tommy Frazier just keeps running all the way for a touchdown. I'm pretty sure he's running today still from that play. There were 4 or 5 Gators on him. It's you see this a lot. It comes up on the greatest plays of all time.
Right.
And just kind of the fact that, hey, we finally got to a championship game, the Spurrier fun and gun, and national television, we undefeated regular season, we could win it all, and we just come out flat. And not only flat, that play just summed it up, like how much better they were than us. Yeah. I mean, the only reason it's 3 and not higher is because, well, 1, we ended up winning the next year, which kind of takes that sting away. But you kind of know that, like, okay, it's one of the best teams to ever play, one of the best players to ever play.
Yeah.
kind of what they did. So I'm not too bummed about it, but it's still kind of just it's embarrassing because it was the national championship game, and it's something that a lot of people have seen. And I'm pretty sure had it happened today with social media, it'd be even worse.
Yeah.
It helps that I was a little bit older, but that's definitely one of those like first kind of like, oh man, that was bad. That was bad.
Yeah.
Just really, if he breaks one tackle, that's fine. But 4 guys were just like hugging him, and he's like, "Hey guys, I gotta go." We're like, "Okay, cool. See ya." End zone's that way.
Oh man.
Yeah, that was a rough one. That's a rough one. That was more of a haunting than like an angry one.
You know, you're right. I would imagine as a Gator fan, you watch that highlight and you're like, oh man, we're on the wrong side of this one again, and I'm never gonna live this down.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. To your defense, the '95 Nebraska team were soldiers on the field, and arguably one of the worst teams ever, best teams ever.
Best, yeah.
So
yeah.
Yeah.
That was a rough. Because that's when I first started. '95 is when I just started becoming a diehard fan. Like, because I was pretty young, and I'd been to Gator games and watched them, but that's like the year I started following them, hardcore following them, and man, I remember that feeling like, oh, this is not a good feeling. Not only losing, but just that's embarrassing. That's just icky. Get it off me, you know.
Gotcha.
That's our first experience with that. It's not fun.
Yep, certainly a rough one. I can definitely understand. All right. So, my number 3 play that haunts us from a Florida State perspective, and how could this not make the list? Wide right, number 1. Now, if for the layman out there were actually 4 of these. And yes, they're all against the same team, Miami. To me, the one that haunts the most was the first one. And it was 1991. Florida State's hosting Miami. It's number 1 versus number 2. And it's in the middle of October. This is a national championship game early in the season, essentially. Whoever wins this is going to go on and win, right? Well, it's been a good defensive battle the entire game. Florida State goes down, less than a minute left, down by 1, goes to set to kick a field goal. He misses it wide right. Now, what makes this one sting even more is that Bobby Bowden thought the kicker made it, runs out on the field cheering.
Yeah.
Only to find out he missed it. Miami knees out the game. They go on to win a share of the national championship, and Florida State would have to continue to wait. It was a rough one. Now, the reason this one is higher than the others is because in other years, it didn't necessarily decide the game. I'll kind of get in that to the honorable mentions, but we were trailing by 1. This would have won the game for us.
Right.
But man, every time Florida State Miami comes, I say, okay, how long is it going to take for them to show wide rights?
Yep.
And it never takes long at all.
Yeah. And that's a very iconic moment, is that Bowden's, that look of disbelief.
Yep.
Yeah. They show that over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Oh, man. All right, let's move on to number 2 before I get too sad over here.
Okay. It's going to get worse for us.
I know.
My number 2 is 2002, home against FSU. And this is a game. I've talked about this a lot, and I'll just say, Gus Scott, turn your head. Gus Scott, just turn your head. Late in the game, Gators are winning. I don't know how much time is left, minute left or something like that. FSU's near midfield, and they have this quarterback, Chris Ricks, who
I remember.
Let's just say Florida fans did not like him. We just didn't like the way I remember him doing the Gator chomp. And anyways, after this game, but he throws this deep pass in the back of the end zone. He hits his receiver, for number 4. I can't remember the name. But the thing that frustrates me the most, Gus Scott, our safety, who's a pretty decent safety, is right there. He has excellent coverage on him, but he just does not see the ball. And it flies right past him into the receiver's hands. And it's just so frustrating. You're in position, you're doing great, just turn your head. Turn your head and you make some kind of motion. You get in you can maybe pick it off. You're such good coverage. But he didn't, and the ball flows right by his head. Florida State scores. Game over. And that was just so frustrating to me. We had a decent team that year, and just losing to Florida State in the swamp that way, and to Chris Ricks we didn't like at all. Oh, I'm like, anybody but him, you know. And this was before Winston. Like, I think the only thing that could have made it worse is Winston throwing that pass. But Chris Ricks, you know, he's the one who beats you. It's depressing stuff there.
I totally understand. A couple of things real quickly. I think you said 02, but you meant 03.
03, okay.
And the wide receiver was PK Sam.
PK Sam, okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, a lot of things obviously about that game stick out to you. That's the biggest one, but the officiating that game, I remember as a Florida State fan, I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah, that was rough.
Florida State is looking 10 times better than they actually are because the refs are giving them everything. I remember at one point there was like a fumble that we recovered because a guy was laying on the football on his back. You're like, how does that even count as possession?
I'm pretty sure that back was for Ernest Graham, and I remember that too, just kind of like, what?
Yep.
What? And you think that would probably make the list if it hadn't been for
the pass
last
center.
play.
Okay. Yeah. As a Florida State fan, you look at that, and the play that sets that up was 4th and 14.
Yep.
He throws a pass to Robinson. You're like, okay, well, that would have been the game right there, but somehow he sets it up and he just throws.
Just chucks this prayer, and it was answered. Oh, I wish it wasn't.
Wow. Number 2.
Yeah.
It's very understandable. Well, how fortuitous that it's Florida State, Florida, and you're number 2, because that's the case for me as well.
Okay.
And I'm sure that this has a name, but let me just say it. Jaquez Green catching a long pass in 1997.
Yep.
You know,
and the play doesn't have a name, but the game does. And at the time, it was called the greatest game ever played in the swamp.
So frustrating, and it haunts, because you look at Florida State the previous year, you knock off the Gators, only to have to play them again and lose miserably, and they claim the national championship. Then you come back, you come into this game undefeated in the swamp. Florida had 2 losses. You're thinking, okay, might be a little bit easier to get past them this time. And even till the very end of the game, you thought it would be. This was the game famously where Steve Spurrier rotated quarterbacks.
Yep.
Doug Johnson and Noah Brandeis. And Florida State goes down and takes the lead on a Sebastian Janikowski kick. But being pretty dumb, he decides to do the Gator Chomp, and he riles the crowd up. Well, this just didn't sit well with everyone on the Florida sideline and in the stadium. This game was just frustrating and haunting because our defense come to this game averaging 6 sacks a game, and we got 0.
Mm-hmm.
Earlier in the game, Jaquez Green actually ran a curl route that was nearly picked off by one of our defenders. So he went to the quarterback and said, okay, this time I'm going to fake the curl and I'm going to go deep. And that's exactly what he split the defenders, and he was just gone. I think Florida, that scoring drive was 4 plays, and Florida State had so little time left and ended up throwing an interception that sealed it. And Florida State, once again, denied a national championship, denied a perfect season. We ended up winning I think we beat Ohio State in the Sugar Bowl or Fiesta Bowl later that season, but the national title was not meant to be. It's just frustrating to continue to have to go through the Gators, especially having to play them in the swamp. It's just haunting to see that one long pass.
Yeah, that's probably one of my favorite all-time plays. Sorry to rub it in. Yeah, because right after that, 2 plays later, Fred Taylor scores.
Yep.
And it's like a minute and change left. We're like, did we score too quick? But we had, like you said, that interception. But yeah, losing to your rival on that way, I understand. But you make a good point. I didn't think about this. The frustration leading up to it of last year, the year before, I mean, where you beat them and you think, oh, okay, you don't have to worry about them anymore. And then they show up in the championship game and beat you.
Yep.
And now you're thinking, okay, we're going to get revenge and just losing that way. Yeah, that's going to be tough.
Yep. We ended up winning 3 years after that against Florida, but it didn't matter at the moment. You had Bobby Bowden. He's just looking for that first perfect year. And to teams that have one, by the way, quick side note, cherish it. It's very, very hard to do. And some schools never even get it done. Florida's still looking for theirs. It'll happen, I'm sure. But to go undefeated, not an easy task.
Yeah. We've had one undefeated regular season. That was in 95. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you could count 09 if you wanted. I mean, you lost the title game to Bama, so.
What do you count as regular and post?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
09 was just that way too, but not all the way. But yeah. It's tough to do. It really is. It really is.
So, all right. Well, let's hear it, Chris. Number one most haunting play. Here it is.
I know this play, but I still wanted to see it again just to make sure I got the stuff down right. And it took me all day to just muster up the courage to watch the play again. It was tough. And this is 2013, home against Georgia Southern.
Oh.
I think you know where I'm going. Gator fans, I'm sorry, this is where I'm going. This is a season where we don't go bowling, 4-8. We are just losing to everyone. Injuries everywhere. Injuries just everywhere. And I think it was the week before we had lost to Vanderbilt. And you go into this Georgia Southern game and you're like, we don't ever lose to Vanderbilt, and we just lost to Vanderbilt. And my wife's like, are we going to lose to Georgia Southern? I'm like, for the first time ever, I'm like, I don't know. I remember saying that. And, of course, Georgia Southern, with their triple option, they beat us. But the one play that sticks out, it's a jet sweep. Solomon Patton, he almost scores a touchdown. But you look back, and it's all over social media. We had two players blocking each other. We had a wide receiver, I think, cut back. He was blocking a guy. He went back to block him, and he kind of peeled off him and found our offensive lineman. And just didn't realize that they were in the same jersey and kept blocking each other.
Oh.
And that was just the good summary of the whole season for us there. It was just that was rock bottom for us. Not only not going bowling for the first time forever, losing to Georgia Southern, but now you're blocking your own players. You're losing and you're embarrassing yourself while you're. It was just that was the worst, and it still haunts me today. And I just remember, I was more active on social media and stuff back then, and just seeing this GIF over and over, and the replay over and over and over, and it's just it was on the not top 10 forever, and you're like, yep, that's my team, So that one, it's gonna be a while before it still haunts me. It still haunts me today. Really, like winning a national championship is the only thing that's really gonna let me get past it.
Gotcha.
That's what's really helped. The Tommy Frazier one is winning after that. But yeah, that was rough. That's rough, man.
That is understandable. And the joke around all the Noel Nation, anyone against Florida, if you just there's always that to go to. Unfortunately, it's always in your back pocket.
Yeah, and it's an easy one.
Yeah.
It's a really easy one to go to.
Wow. All right. Well, my number one play that haunts us, and this one, my more personal ones are in the honorable mention, but this one, it's good and bad, but it haunts because you're just so close. I'm going to have to go back a little bit on this one too. And it's 1987, Florida State's playing Miami. Again, this started the Bowden dynasty. From 87 till 2000, Florida State finished in the top 5 every single year. You play Miami at home in this stadium, which just isn't finished and doesn't have enough seats. Bowden's bringing back the Knowles, and there are people sitting on the steps because they can't even sit down. There's so many people at this game. Mm-hmm. This game would go down in football lore. The most NFL players ever to play in one college football game were at this game, Florida State Miami.
Really?
Most in the history of Division I. Just loaded with NFL talent. And the game, we're trailing by 7. 26-19. We're driving down. We score a touchdown with 42 seconds left. Now, earlier in the game, the kicker had missed an extra point, so Bowden was a little iffy, but he also knew what was on the line. So, I don't know if he decided, I don't know if his players talk him into it, he decided to go for 2.
All right.
Quarterback rolls out, he throws the pass, they knock it down, it's incomplete. Florida State loses by 1. And Miami would end up being the national champions that year. Florida State would continue to have to wait. Florida State had to struggle through the years of the Gators in the 90s. They have struggled against the wide rights against Miami continually, but it all started at this game.
Right.
And, man, it's just the play that haunts you. You just, that's the one, like, could I go back? Would I just kick the extra point and take the tie? Would I have won the national championship? And we'll never know because you didn't do that. So that 1-point loss in 87, it really set the tone. And Florida State would struggle to win. I mean, they'd win in 93, controversially, if you want to put that into effect. And it wasn't until 99 you win it just completely without question, wire to wire, number 1.
All right.
Yeah. So frustrating.
Yeah, and to that team, and that's one of those, like, yeah, you get forever going to second guess yourself.
Yeah.
On that.
And I really think that sets up all of Florida State and Miami with Bowden. I think from that year going forward, he always coached not to lose that game instead of trying to win it.
Right. Because he did the opposite before. Yeah. Wow. That's deep stuff there.
Yeah.
Think about it.
So, I mean, that was quite the trip down memory lane for both of us.
Oh,
I'm sure there's some honorable mentions, and man, I'm sure that people are screaming at their phones going, how could you not mention this one? But What are some of your honorable mentions that didn't quite make the top 5?
I know that I forget what year it was, but a Georgia game, or Lindsey Scott takes a long pass late in the game and wins a game for Georgia. Their announcer is famous for yelling, Lindsey Scott, Lindsey Scott, Lindsey Scott. That was a little bit before my time, though, so it didn't make the list. Yeah. I forgot. You can help me out with this. It was at Florida State. I think they were throwing a pass to Peter Warwick, but Marquand Manuel, our safety, jumped it or whatever, and it was right there, went right through his hands, and ricocheted right into Peter Warwick's hands. He scored a touchdown. Was that?
That's 98.
Yeah. That one, like, come on, because you know how good they are. Peter Warwick is the guy. You defend it well, and you just literally right through your hands. And then not only does it not just if you just deflect it and it falls to the ground, that's fine. But it bounces right to the one guy you don't want to touch its hands. He scores touchdown.
Yes, indeed. Do you remember the quarterback that threw that pass?
Was that the Rooster?
Yes, sir. Marcus Outzen, the one and only.
That game frustrated me too because we thought, he's the backup. We have a chance to win.
Not backup, third string.
Third string, yeah. And we're like, we have a chance to win. No, we didn't.
I can understand that one for sure.
Yeah, that was LSU. Actually, a few fake field goals and stuff. One of them is their fake punt that they had, and the punter took it and ran like, I don't know, 70 yards for a touchdown. It was called back because he was taunting us.
Oh, I think I remember that too.
Yeah, it was called back, but just like no one was anywhere near him for a punter to stroll in from like 70 yards out. It's pretty embarrassing that we let that happen, and that he taunted us doing it too. The only redeeming factor is that it didn't count because he was taunting us. Oh, that one's kind of haunting as well.
Wow.
Pretty sure there's more. There's more games, but as far as specific plays, those are the ones that stick out.
Okay. All right. Well, I had a couple of honorable mentions too, real quick. Wide right number 3 in 2000 against Miami. This one was kind of an interesting year because Chris Winkie decides to come back after winning the Heisman. Excuse me, after winning the national championship. He ends up winning the Heisman. Miami's riding high. They really started to take off that year. This one actually, the field goal would have just tied the game and sent it in overtime. But we ended up losing on the road. I heard several commentators say that was the best game I'd ever been to. It certainly was a really good one to watch. We just came up on the wrong end. It was just another kick. But again, you're talking about the redeeming qualities of it. The reason it doesn't make the list is because Florida State ends up finishing number 2 in the BCS, but number 3 in every other poll.
Okay.
Number 3 ended up being Miami. So we get to squeeze into the Orange Bowl and play Oklahoma, and Miami's sitting outside. They end up winning their bowl game. They only had one loss on the year, and then we lost to Oklahoma. So they were, if you ask Miami, they probably try and claim that year as a national championship. But
right.
So that one was really frustrating. Probably even more frustrating was wide left.
Okay.
And two years later, in 2002, Miami was riding a win streak. They were national champions. They were defending. They had won 30-something in a row. And we were up by 13, 27-14, late in the second half. What does Miami do? They come back and score. We're down by 1. We have a chance to go down, kick the field goal, and win. Beat the defending national championships on their homecoming. And Xavier Batia, he just hooked it left. So I was like, oh, at least we have a new trend now.
Right.
Mix it up a little bit. But
right.
You were talking about timing in life. I had just moved to Tallahassee the year before. And so I was really deep into the Knolls, as you can imagine. And that one hurt because that was at Miami. We were watching it at my church. And I did the stupid thing of celebrating as soon as it left his foot and not watching the kick. So I jump up and cheer, and everybody else is just dead silent. It wasn't until I hit the ground I realized why.
Oh, man.
So that was a little bit of a haunting play.
Right.
A couple ones that I went to the Georgia Tech game in 2008, and we actually were down by 3. Late in the game, we picked off their quarterback, and we're going in for the winning score. Less than 2 minutes left, and Marcus Sims fumbles, and we ended up losing possession and ended up losing by 3. Right. So going to Atlanta, that was kind of a fun weekend, but just one play, guys, would have won the game. Would have made it better. And then in 2010, another NC State game, we gave up a really late touchdown to NC State, but somehow we drove down and had a chance to win the game with just seconds left. Christian Ponder fumbles at the 5-yard line, and we end up losing.
Ugh.
Just so many close games. But quite a list for you. I can feel the frustration. You've had most emotion at number 5, it sounds like. So.
Oh yeah, that one angers me just because I knew, and everyone knew except the people that it mattered the most. That is, I guess, it's really frustrating. That really is.
Wow.
But yeah, triggered.
Yeah. So the plays that haunt us, it's that time of year where we're thinking about all the things that could have been, and the things that will linger out in our memory forever. Chris, well, I'm sure we're going to hear from the fans what their top 5 plays that haunt them. So how can they send those to us?
Yeah, please hit us up at our website, floridafocuspodcast.libsyn.com, Libsyn, Libsyn. Facebook and YouTube, Florida Focus Podcast. Hit us up on Twitter, Florida Focus Pod. Please feel free to email us with your list of games you'd like to forget but still haunt you today. Florida Focus Podcast at yahoo.com. And we have a Snapchat and Instagram at FL Focus Pod, and of course our Patreon account.
Yes. All right, so to the fans, thank you so much. We wanted to bring you the special content this week, given it's Halloween Day, so trick or treat, you guys enjoy. Thank you so much for finding us and for your interaction and your listenership. If you could, give us a 5-star rating on iTunes. That would be really helpful and appreciated. We'd love a review as well. We want to know how we're doing and how we can improve the show if possible. So anything else before we close out on this Halloween Day, Chris?
No, that's too many tricks. I want some treats.
Yep, let's go have some fun now that we've exercised the demons. So,
yes.
This is Brandon. Go Florida State.
Go Gators.